What is up, guys, and welcome back to a overanalyzing video. Now today has been one that you guys have actually requested, and a lot of you wanted me to do specific parts of Transit, so I figured for this video, why not combine all the TOIs of Transit into one video. Transit not only has a bunch of details, but it has a bunch of Easter eggs, references, a whole bunch that you will see. But I hope you guys do enjoy this video, and please let me know down in the comments below which zombies map you would like to see next, as we still have a ton of zombie maps to look at. But either way, let's get into the map Transit. Now, the most notable thing when spawning into this map is obviously we're in a bus sort of station. But if you're someone that is familiar with the whole Easter eggs and theories about Transit, then you know that this poster in the middle of the bus station is actually probably a nod reference to a second route. Just by looking at this poster, it seems that it gives us a sort of different path, as we know that this is Transit, but also it shows two different buses and different other routes that we have yet to see in the game files or in Transit. According to the Call of Duty wiki, Transit takes place in the year 2035 on October 21st. In northeast of Hanford, United States. Now, if you tell me that this is sort of a modern style in 2035, then you would be completely wrong, as this is something, because this place reminds me of the 60s and 50s and 70s, and I mean, it has that old style. It almost reminds me of the map Nuketown 2025 with that old / futuristic look to it. Now, looking at the wall, we see a poster about power lines, which we will see, which is interesting, as these power lines are actually the same ones that we will see later in the map. This poster here advertises obviously a sedan vehicle, and here we actually have an advertisement of Transit itself. Now, upon opening this room, we don't really see anything other than kind of the same posters and advertisements. Now, before we get into the main thing itself, which is the bus, let's look around what is around this bus depot. By just looking at the bus station itself, it has those neon lights that we would see in the 50s and 60s. And what's interesting is that there's a sort of nuclear shelter on the side of it. Now, across from the bus station is actually also a garage, but unfortunately it's inaccessible. But also, the thing with Transit is it's hard to see, but we have a solution for both of those. Now, turning off the fog and no clipping gives us a better perspective of what the map actually looks like, and it shows us a lot more details that we were not able to see beforehand. Now, going into the garage, it's honestly just empty other than obviously where the barrier is. It's understandable when it comes to out-of-bound places that they are not going to have as many details as we would like them to have. I mean, same with this building. It's just completely dark inside of it. There's just nothing. But it would have been interesting if we were actually able to come back here, giving this area kind of a bigger place to actually run around and train zombies, because considering that this is a very small spawning area, and of course you can run on the street, but you do get attacked by these little gremlin things, as you can see. Now, if we go back to the bus station and actually go down where it says the shelter, there's actually unfortunately nothing at the bottom. Now, if we go behind the bus depot itself, yet again, there's nothing too crazy, but I do find interesting this little wooden bathroom, the one from the intro of the movie Shrek. Other than that, if we follow the street behind, it just stops completely. Another thing too I kind of realized was actually how this spawning window actually connects this door here, and I just find that quite interesting, as usually when it comes to spawning areas they don't really connect to anything, but it's funny that zombies can unlimitedly spawn from here. Now, if we go inside of the tunnel before we get attacked, there's nothing really too much other than a lot of broken cars down, of course, I mean, but it's interesting to see that this was actually supposed to be a playable area before. There's a barrier here that you can't fix, unfortunately, which is almost interesting inside of a lot of these random barrier areas, because it almost seems like there's something going on. When we actually go to look, there's just nothing. We're not provided with any other detail. Another thing I find very interesting in this barrier here in the tunnel is actually the shelter sign. Of course, it doesn't connect with anything because it's out of bounds, but it's interesting that we see more of shelter signs in this map. And possibly if we make our way to the other side, this could be where the shelter was, inside of this room. Interesting detail too is the zombies can actually travel through these tunnels to the other barrier, meaning that it's sort of like an invisible walkway for them to reach either side. This tunnel seems like it would have been such a cool thing to play more in, because it's so open and it has so many little details around it. even though it's not excessively crazy, it's interesting to see how much detail they put in it for something that we don't really have the chance to really plan, because we get attacked by that little gremlin thing, but also because it's not really anything that benefits us in here. Now, on our way out actually of the tunnel, one of the things that we could see is a road that's blocked. Now, presumably this could have been where bus route B could have led to, and then unfortunately they cut it out. Who knows really, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was. Now, making our way to the diner, it has a similar style to the bus route station. I find it pretty funny that it says dine, the letters are missing and one of the lights are out, which is probably like a little neat Easter egg. Now, unfortunately, the diner doesn't have that many details inside of it. I mean, if we look at the menu, it's so blurred out that we can't see what they were selling or how much it was. The only time that we could actually play diner on itself was actually in the mode turn. So unfortunately, unless you're trying to just get a cola, this place wouldn't really be a great place to camp for very long. And not only inside the diner, but also inside of the gas station where box is. The amount of times that I've died inside of this station by going to the mystery box is countless of times. I do find it interesting that the diner doesn't have any other details inside of it. There's actually no bathroom, which I find pretty interesting. I mean, it's no big deal, but it's just an observation that almost every diner has a washroom, so where do they go when they need to go on their break? I mean, there's not even a single back room for employees. Almost forgot to mention was you can actually get Galvan knuckles on the roof of the diner. Now, I know this is really not important, but going back to that bathroom situation at the diner, if we go behind it, there's these two sort of door frames that are obviously not finished or untouched. And honestly, this seems like this could have been the bathroom. It would make sense since there's just two doors next to each other and it's kind of like a small thing. It's there, but it just was never actually put into the game. Sorry for getting off track there, but let's go back to the gas station. Now, again, this is one of those buildings that it just doesn't have too many things other than obviously this car inside of the garage, which if you actually look at the sedan poster back at the bus station, it seems like it's the exact same one. Now, this gas station has the right idea. They have a big ass washroom in here. Now, how are the zombies exactly getting under this garage door? I have no clue. Since this is an overanalyzing video, something I find interesting is this ice advertisement that they sell ice in on those huge containers outside, but there's actually no ice at all or containers. So are they falsely advertising that they sell ice here? Unfortunately, beyond some parts that we can go out, there's unfortunately not really anything other than flat land with a few trees and rocks and a fence stopping you from continuing on. Similar to the bus station that we saw, there's like this little building, of course, right next to the diner. But what's interesting is you can actually go inside of it once you turn the power for a specific part for the bus. Which honestly, I find it pretty cool that they have at least buildings that are accessible by certain things that you need to do. Now, continuing on past the diner, we actually see the sedan advertisement yet again on the billboard. But following this route, there's really nothing at all when you think about it. I mean, of course, we're not really specifically supposed to go in these places because there's nothing, but it doesn't really make these outside places that playable when you think about it. Now, of course, I've already overanalyzed town, and if you want a very deep dive of it, I would recommend going to see that video. But because there's a few differences, we're still going to take a look at it and go through it. And we're going to spot a few differences that we notice. Now, if we go to the rare bookstore, one of the first things that we see is this door actually being closed, and you actually need to open the power to access it. While in the regular town, this is actually open. Now, they do still have Juggernaut still in this area, so that didn't change. Now, this place is a little bit modernized since it has obviously a set of traffic lights. Now, the architecture of the buildings have some modern looks to it, but also some old Western sort of era designs to it. And when I say Western, I just mean in general, like something you would see cowboys back in the day in the deserts when they would go to a town. So it just gives off that vibe and that look at certain points or at certain parts. Another thing too is this church. It seems something that's just so old and something we'd see in an old Western town just by the looks of it. I mean, the architecture and everything just gives off that vibe and that design. I mean, even the signs too has that old Western look and font to it. If we go inside the bar, it's the same thing. There's nothing too crazy. I mean, there's still that teddy bear that we saw in the map town as well that was still there, which is probably a not Easter egg, but also instead of Speed Cola being outside, it's actually inside of the bar. Now, if you recall to my overanalyzing town video, then you remember that I talked about this bowling alley and it has a deeper meaning to it. Now, what I find really interesting is it seems like it was supposed to be a playable area. You could just simply say that. How do I know that? I mean, I didn't even need to do research. There's actually one thing that tells us this answer right away. Now, obviously, if we look at inaccessible buildings and we really look at them, we see doors that are just kind of flat. For example, if we look at the laundromat building next to the bowling alley, this door is flat. It has no texture, no nothing. It's a completely flat door. If you look at the bowling alley's door, the entire door is 3D, meaning that it was supposed to be something that we could open, meaning that if we open this door, which brings us to the back camping area, we'd actually be able to access the bowling alley from this back door where double tap is. Now, I did again a little bit of research, and we do know that in the leaked picture of Tranzit that this place was actually supposed to be enterable, that we were actually supposed to enter this room and be able to go through it with probably that one fan that we can build to open this door. A lot of you guys had told me that this was actually a boiler because it's the same exact asset, which now makes a lot more sense, but I did like the rocket narrative in the Overanalyzing Town video where the assets weren't even there. It seemed incompleted, which I thought that they decided to scrap it last minute, but no, I was wrong, and this is where you get certain parts for Pack-a-Punch. And a lot of you actually told me also that these barrels here are actually Nova gases, which makes a lot of sense. So it's kind of a campaign sort of crossover from the Black Ops 1 Nova gas. I do find it interesting that they have this futuristic vault under a simply innocent town where people regularly lived, unless this was just kind of a fake sort of town in order to cover up for the labs that they have, which we will see obviously continuing with this map. This was probably a cover. I mean, the time and era makes no sense when it comes to the architecture. If we really want to look even deeper into it, why are perk machines here? I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that these machines were made by an advanced military company and distributed around the United States. Meaning that they probably made this sort of pack-a-punch or perk machines around here. Probably explains why that we need to go down here for pack-a-punch machine parts. And also the Nova gas barrels are also down here. Now let's go to a lot of people's favorite but also most hated POIs on this map, and that is Farm. Now Farm, I feel like, is one of those maps that would have succeeded on its own if they actually added perk machines and also Pack-a-Punch on the standalone versions of it, just like the counterpart town. But of course, these areas are way too small, but when entering the house, it just looks like a standard house, a country regular house. Honestly, it just seems empty. I mean, they probably moved out, but there's really not any details when actually just playing it on the home Tranzit map itself. It's more of just a camping spot. Of course, there's a workbench. The only detail that really caught my eye was this refrigerator with a light dimming down on it with a bloody handprint on the fridge. Now again, if we want to look at this deeper, we can go with the narrative that the reasoning why the house is so empty is because that it's owned by the military, and that house is probably used as a cover-up for their secret operations. Just like we see at the diner, we see another shed that you need the power to open, and inside of this is actually, I'm pretty sure, just Claymore. Now, an interesting thing I find inside of the barn is the amount of boxes there is and have labels on it, but unfortunately we cannot see what it says on them. And I find that pretty interesting for a farm to have so many boxes, because who knows what this barn has to hide. I mean, was this a sort of low-key place for the military or whatnot to have things hidden inside of? It has no stables, no pens, no nothing for animals, just boxes. Unopened big boxes. In my opinion, I do think that this barn has a deeper meaning to it. We're talking about Black Ops Zombies. There is always a meaning to something when we think about it. There's always hidden things, hidden details that Treyarch hide. Now, this cupolas or tower silo, or this barn tower silo, actually supports my idea of the barn having a deeper meaning. Now, of course, this map takes place in the United States, and there's Russian writing on this silo. Now, upon translating it, the text on the left actually says the word infected or contaminated. And on the right, where it's kind of blurry on red, it translates to experimental sample of project DIT-YAT-T. I probably butchered that really bad. I did a little bit of research, and it really didn't tell me anything for lore-wise, and apparently it refers to a real location, DIT-YAT-T, a checkpoint near Chernobyl exclusion zone in Ukraine. So it could be just a reference to Chernobyl in Black Ops 2 Zombies, since this whole place is infected. And reminder, this is an out-of-bounds place, so you can't really see this in-game. unless you come to this window and you really zoom in. But also there's this red barn, but yet again there's unfortunately nothing inside, giving us really no detail, with another silo that unfortunately also has no written details on it. But beyond that, there's actually a cornfield, but going past it, it's just another out of bounds area. And next to the house on farm itself, there's a huge lava lake. As small as farm is, I feel like there's a deeper meaning to it. I mean, yet again, with the underground place on the town bank and this Russian silo with containment or infection and these random boxes inside a farm, and just overall all the other details that we saw, makes this map a little bit more sinister than it was before. But what I do find interesting about this cornfield is that just like the tunnel that we saw between the diner and the bus stop, this was also supposed to be a standalone playable area. Same with the Nacht der Untoten. You do have to come back here for the Easter egg, but unfortunately we're not doing the Easter egg today on this map. But if we walk through the cornfield, which is almost like a maze, we actually reach Nacht der Untoten, a original Call of Duty Zombies map. Now, a lot of you guys gave me a lot of slack for saying that I didn't even know that this was in Tranzit. And I mean, yeah, you guys are right for giving me shade on that. It's not the full playable map, it's more of kind of the spawn area. And the only reason why you need to come here in the map is actually for a part. And of course, in the game files, this was supposed to be something that was fully rendered and fully playable as its own standalone, yet again, map. But probably because of memory issues, like mentioned 100 times, they decided to just cut it completely. We don't even have the second part of the map rendered in. I do appreciate the fact that they added a classic map into this huge open world zombies map. If we go behind it, what's interesting enough, it seems like this is supposed to be some sort of bridge of some sort. I don't know, there's like no road on it, so I don't know what really this is supposed to be. Now, before we get into this place specifically, I want to look outside of the map and just look at what's going on. I find it pretty interesting how this place is completely lit up for something that's sort of inaccessible. You can't even make your way to power station sort of things. I'm not too sure what this is. Pretty neat for them to add sort of like a train. Because of the apocalypse, it was derailed. But here's what I find really interesting is I can't find the front of the train car. The cargo themselves is not actually the front of the train. So maybe whoever that was driving the train just detached it and got away. And as for the rails, obviously they don't really go beyond the map. And keep in mind that this map is very foggy, so we can't really see beyond a lot of points even when they're really close. The dead giveaway that this is sort of like a laboratory sort of thing is this lab storage boxes. Pretty futuristic containers compared to the cars we see here. But if we actually make our way down these stairs, the entire power station, that's similar to the one that we saw in town, except it is a lot more brighter. I'm not gonna lie, this is kind of hurting my eyes right now. Now, a few things that I picked up on upon entering. There's all these screens and computers, but I do want to assume that they are spying on the town, because why else is there cameras pointing somewhere else? And it's hard to see what exactly is on the screen. It almost looks like those two barrels that we saw outside with the white light. And of course, they didn't really put any details as much into it as I would like them to have, because it just has all the same, it's literally just the same screen on it. It's not the biggest place too, even though it seems like it's something that would be pretty big. It's some sort of reactor inside of the map town. And I'm not too sure lore-wise what it's supposed to be. Since this is an overanalyzing video, I'm not going to get deep into it. But moving forward from now on, these videos, I'll try to include as much lore as I can, just to help support the ideas of what's going on. If you actually open this door to this little shack, you could actually just enter a huge nuclear testing reactor site, which I find is pretty funny. It takes a little bit of parkour to actually get to it as well too, if you want. And how many times have you seen someone screwing up this jump? Because I've definitely screwed it up, and I've seen a ton of people doing this simple jump. It's kind of like that one jump on the map, Die Rise, that is really easy, but when you're young, it's like the hardest thing to do for some reason. Now, continuing down this long, empty road, there's actually a little shack here. And honestly, I always forget that this is an actual accessible place in the map. And of course, it's for people that are trying to do the Wonder Weapon Easter eggs. So you don't really think about it when you're actually playing inside of the map, because it's so off track. Now, if we actually go to where this bridge is, there doesn't seem to be really much, but it connects between town and the bus depot area, bringing you back to spawn. Now, if we go back to town, we see this red truck everywhere. It's one of those common assets around the map that we see. And they never have any cargo behind them. I mean, It's just always the truck themselves. Now, a detail that I actually picked up on, there's only a couple trucks that actually have something behind them. This isn't something that's confirmed or anything, but my suspicion is because there's a laboratory under it, it makes sense. This truck is carrying something to bring to those laboratories. And I mean, of course, we know that town has a lab under it, which would make a lot of sense for them to have something in it, but except it's not really near the bunker. It's more like it unfortunately crashed. I mean, we yet again see it here right by the church. And if we actually go to the power station itself, we see this truck, and right next to it is the lab storage containers. It seems like they probably rushed to get those boxes out because the truck through the wall and was probably about to fall in this pit of lava, which if we go below it, there's not any detail. It just kind of ends down here. Now, as you could tell, when we actually no clip outside, you could see that there is a moon and a sun. And you might be asking yourself, well, why does that matter? Well, apparently in the game files, we're supposed to actually have a day and night cycle. That's why under the map, we actually have a moon. And we can even see the fog and clouds under. I mean, it's just like the game Minecraft, where if you no clip under, you could see the moon under the map. I want to make sure I got as many details as I could. If we go back to the diner, it actually says now die, and also this sign says on for you, which I don't know if that's really supposed to mean anything. I just find that interesting. And you can actually hear the transit loading screen music when you actually come inside of this building. Now, another detail in town is actually the sign that spells out moon. A detail that went completely over my head in the original town overanalyzing video were these three paintings here. Now, I would like to give a shout out to Crazy Rabbit for pointing this out in a video, so I'll leave a link down in the description below. These three paintings over the bar are actually real paintings. Now, the first painting is actually called Tondal's Vision, which is an interesting looking painting. The second one is actually called The Garden of Healthy Delight. And lastly, this picture comes from a painting called The Tower of Babel, which is pretty cool that they included real life paintings. Now, going into theater mode, I wanted to take a look at where the bus comes from at the beginning, and it actually comes from the back of the bus depot going over this little ledge. Now, taking a look at the bus, it honestly just looks like an ordinary bus we would see back in the 60s and 50s. Now, one of the things that I actually picked up on was the license plate where it says XP79, which I'm not too sure what that means, so please let me know down in the comments below. Of course, the fan favorite Ted, the bus driver himself. On his hat it says Bloodhound from what I could make from this angle, but he does add a lot of life into this map. Despite it being a dark and gloomy map, I think Ted is a great addition to giving it that extra life that it needs. Either way, I hope you guys did enjoy this video. Please let me know down in the comments below if I missed anything or what you'd like to see next for this series. But either way, it's been Fallow. Remember to stay smart.